You're sitting in a room full of people. Laughter around you, conversations happening everywhere. Someone says something funny and the whole room reacts. And you laugh too, because that's what you're supposed to. But underneath that smile, there's a feeling. Quiet. Heavy. Like you're watching everything from behind glass. Everyone is right there. And yet, you have never felt more alone in your life. If that feeling is familiar to you, stay with me tonight. Because what you're carrying is not a personality flaw. It's not shyness. It's not you being difficult or ungrateful. It is something much deeper than that. And tonight, we're going to look at it honestly, the way it deserves to be looked at. Psychologists call this emotional isolation. And it is completely different from being physically alone. Physical loneliness is simply the absence of people. Emotional isolation is something far more painful. It is the presence of people, and still feeling like none of them truly see you. You are in the room. You are nodding and smiling and responding, but the real you, the part that carries doubts and fears and quiet questions about whether you actually belong anywhere, that part is completely invisible to everyone around you. And here is what makes this so quietly exhausting. You become very good at performing presence. You learn exactly how to seem okay. You learn which version of yourself is acceptable in which room. You become, in many ways, a very skilled actor in your own life, and nobody around you even notices, because the performance is that good, because you have had years of practice. But you notice. Late at night, when the room empties and the noise fades, you notice. Because the feeling doesn't leave with the people, it stays. And sometimes the silence after a social gathering feels like the loneliest place of all, because you were just surrounded by people and it did nothing. It changed nothing. The ache is still there, exactly where you left it. So where does this come from? Why do some people move through crowds feeling connected and alive, while others move through the same crowds feeling invisible and completely drained? The answer almost always lives in the past. Not in some single dramatic moment, but in the quiet accumulation of smaller ones. The times you spoke and weren't really heard. The times you tried to show the real you and it wasn't received well. The times you shared something honest and watched it get dismissed or ignored. The times you trusted someone and that trust was handled carelessly. Each of those moments left a very small but very specific mark on your nervous system. And over time, your brain drew a conclusion. Being fully present with people is not safe. So it began pulling you back. Not all the way, just enough to protect you. That invisible wall you feel between yourself and the people around you, you didn't build it consciously. Your mind built it for you. Because at some point in your story, being open got you hurt, or invisible, or left. And your brain, which is designed above everything else to keep you safe, decided it would never let that happen again. And so you learned to be warm without being vulnerable, likable without being truly known. You learned to ask people about their lives instead of talking about your own. You became the listener, the supporter, the one everyone comes to. And in doing that, you became someone who everyone appreciates, but almost nobody truly knows. Present in the room, but never fully in the room. Safe, but quietly starving for something you couldn't quite name. And for a while, that worked. It kept the pain manageable. It kept the disappointment at a distance. But something nobody tells you about walls is this. They don't just keep pain out. They keep everything out, including the very thing you are quietly desperate for. real connection. The kind where someone looks at you and actually sees you, not the version you carefully put together for public consumption, not the smile you've practiced. You, the actual you. And that is the real weight of always feeling alone in a crowd. It is not just loneliness, it is the longing for something that feels both necessary and terrifying at the same time. Something you want more than almost anything, and something you've also learned somewhere deep down to stop expecting. What that does to a person over years, what it quietly takes from them, and what most people never even realize is happening is exactly what we need to talk about next. Here is what most people never say out loud. When you spend years feeling alone in a crowd, you stop expecting connection to feel real. You start treating it like something that happens to other people. You watch couples laugh easily with each other. You watch groups of friends who seem to actually know each other, not just know of each other. And somewhere inside, very quietly, you file that away as something that is simply not available to you. And that is the most painful part of all of this. Not the loneliness itself, but the moment you stop believing it could ever be different. Because the truth is, the wall that your mind built to protect you is not permanent. It was never meant to be permanent. It was a response, a very intelligent, very understandable response to experiences that were genuinely painful. But a response is not a life sentence. And your nervous system, as fixed as it feels, is not fixed at all. There is a concept in psychology called earned security. It means that even people who grew up without safe, consistent connection, even people who learned early that vulnerability leads to pain, can rewire that pattern. Not by forcing themselves to be open with everyone, not by pretending the wall isn't there, but by finding even one relationship, one person, one space where being real is met with something gentle, something steady, something that doesn't leave. That experience, small as it sounds, begins to teach your nervous system something it never fully learned, that presence can be safe, that being seen doesn't have to end in loss. You don't need a crowd to feel less alone. You never did. You need depth, not volume. You need one conversation that goes somewhere real more than you need 20 conversations that stay on the surface. And that is something you are completely capable of, because the people who feel the most deeply are also the ones who connect the most meaningfully when they finally allow it. So if you are carrying this tonight, the quiet weight of feeling invisible in rooms full of people, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not someone who is simply destined to watch life from behind glass forever. You are someone whose capacity for connection is so deep that shallow has never been enough, and there is nothing wrong with that. This channel exists for exactly this kind of conversation, for the things that don't get said at parties, for the feelings that don't have easy names. If something here reached you tonight, subscribe, not for the numbers, but because this is a space that was built for people who feel deeply in a world that rarely slows down long enough to notice. We are just getting started.